Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Roseanne Santos. I am the Director of Alumni Engagement at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. And I welcome you this evening to a good old-fashioned resume workshop. We are going to really make this informal. We want you to be able to take notes because obviously everyone's resume is going to be a little different. There's different industries in the room. And we want to make this less talking to you and at you and more of a conversation. So before I begin, I do want to introduce Megan Cerezo, who's my colleague, and she's kind of our back-end tech person. If you have any issues, just put it in the chat and she will help and she will work with you. And then my co-host, co-presenter, my colleague, Christina Simonson from the Center for Career and Professional Development at John Jay. I will let her do her own introduction. But like I said, get a pen, copy your resume, get ready to mark it up because we really are dedicated to wanting you to be successful. So we're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you what you need to hear, and we'll go from there. So Christina, take it away.
Thank you, Roseanne. So hi, everyone. My name is Christina Simonson. I am the Associate Director for Employer Relations in the Career Center. I've been with John Jay over 7 years now, so I may know some of you, I may not. Maybe we're a little ships passing in the wind there. But I'm excited to talk to you about resume because it is something that you will be taking with you throughout your career, and it's an ever-developing material, right? It's an ever developing document. So the further in your career you go, the more your resume changes. And so not one size necessarily fits all. So as Roseanne mentioned, this is going to be more of an informal conversation. I do have a PowerPoint for the sake of helping folks take notes, but I will be going off the cuff at sometimes, and what's on there may not necessarily fit you. So that's why I want to have the opportunity. Use the raise hand function, use the chat box. If something I'm saying, maybe you have a question on, you would like me to expand on, I'm happy to do that as we go through the presentation, maybe with more unique examples or questions that you may have resulting from your career. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen, and forgive me where.
So while Christina does that, I'm going to chime in once in a blue with my 2 cents. And I think the most important thing for everyone to do that's easy is make sure there are no typos or grammar mistakes. That's the easiest piece of all of this. There should be 0 typos, 0. So once we get through that, then, I know she's going to get to the more technical stuff, but I know as someone who's been on many, many search committees, as has Christina, it is a huge pet peeve of mine. And it actually takes you out of the running when you're in competition with someone who's exactly equal to you, because it shows me that you didn't have attention to detail. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll definitely, I'm sure, hit that, but proofreading it is critical. And I think like the number one word I've seen, especially when it comes to working with our students, is a lot have retail experience, right? Or customer service. Costumer. I see costumer all the time instead of customer. And for some reason, Microsoft Word doesn't pick that up. Maybe because maybe costumer is a word in that not a word I've ever used. But that's definitely something that comes up. But anyway, let's get into it. So is this okay? Because I don't want to make it full screen because then I can't see the Zoom screen, and then I don't know. I like to. So the goals of this workshop, right? We're going to identify some formats of resume that might be a fit for you. I'm going to go over how to write concise experience statements for your bullet points. And then how to tailor your resume to suit different positions. I wish Roseanne, I should have asked you in advance if we could take a poll of the room on kind of like, is this making a resume for the first time? Is this a career change? Is this, how long has it been since you've graduated? But I'm gonna, let's see, I can't see.
Well, we can put in the chat, if this is your first time with a resume, put 1. If you're tweaking your resume, put 2. And then after that, we'll ask the other question and get a sense of that. How about that, Christina? Does that work?
That's good. Okay, so what was number 2 again?
Yeah, so most people, There's
Okay.
only one person it looks like that
Two.
this is their first time kind of messing with 2 people. Everyone else is tweaking their resumes.
Speaking. Okay, good. Good,
Yep.
good, good. Gives me a good sense. So well, I'll touch upon some things, but then we'll have more conversations about the specific tweaking. Thank you for doing that. Um, so first, what I tell my students and clients is that you have to do your research. This could be for your first resume. This could be for your thousandth resume. Do your research. And this includes everything from not just about the organization, right? That obviously you have the job description in front of you, right? The internet is at our disposal. Doing your research on the organization and the position as to what is it they're actually looking for in terms of skills and abilities, right? What is the culture and the values of the organization? Because you do want to think about when you're sending in your application materials, now might be drifting into cover letter, but you do want to make sure that you are speaking to their mission and vision, and that your career goals are aligned with that, and you want to reference that in your application materials. So doing your homework is probably like the very first step. And then on the flip side of that, of the corporation, understanding yourself, right? What is your brand? What do you stand for, right? So go through and create, even maybe if it's even Google, like a branding checklist, personal branding checklist. There are a lot of great resources out there, because you have to look in and say, okay, what am I skilled at, right? Who am I the go-to person for, right? What do my colleagues come to me for? What are your values, right? What are your goals? And then thinking and reflecting back on your experience. When I work with students, I always recommend have a master version of your resume, right? Have a long document that's 400 pages, right? But that document is for your eyes only. And it's a reference sheet that includes experience, that from everything you've done, right? And though we do want to try to keep it current, um, it's so important that you are able to reflect back on what you've done throughout your career or academic journey if you're a recent grad. So doing that reflection, know yourself, know the organization, and know the position you're applying to. That's really important. Okay. So what is a resume? We all know what a resume is. Summary of your experience, right? This is a one pager, and when you think about what you are applying for, try to think back to the actual each bullet point, right? How has what you've done can be an example for what they're looking for, right? How can you make that connection between the two? So when you're thinking about these experience statements, right, do they really capture what you've done in this role? Right? Each piece of information contributes to your overall attractiveness to the employer. So I always tell my students, whether you print out the job description or you just have it up, maybe you're fortunate to have two monitors, right? You have the job description on one, you have your resume on another. Look at the language. Look at the language they're using in the job posting, right? Is there a way to incorporate that into your resume? I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with ATS, applicant tracking systems. In this day and age, there are an influx of applications that a human resources rep may not have the ability to source all through these resumes, right? So they're relying on a software to kind of trim the fat. So with those ATS systems, you do have to be mindful of using the language that's in the posting. I can't stress that enough. There is a really great website called jobscan.com. And with the free version, you could scan, I believe, up to 5 resumes. But it's really helpful. You paste the job description in, and then you can upload your resume, and it's going to tell you, oh, this position is really looking for these 12 skills. You only really refer to 3 of them, right? And it's going to tell you you're going to rank low because you didn't use particular language, you didn't quantify a particular area, and that's really important. So make sure when you're going back, would your resume get through a scanning system, and what would it rank? Because it's very likely, if you're ranking low, your resume may not ever be seen by a recruiter, right? Because it
Yeah, can
hasn't.
I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Something I also learned about these artificial intelligence systems is that they're not into fancy, trendy terms. So if you're a really good marketing person, do not put marketing guru.
Mhm.
Artificial intelligence won't pick up all that trendy language the way I might or Christina might. I consider myself really big into network, and I learned a term today called net weaving, because oftentimes the network is really more of a tight weave, but an artificial intelligence program is not going to pick up, I'm a master net weaver. You just got to kind of stick to the simple language that these computers are going to pick up. So keep that in mind as well, that sometimes, as creative as we want you to be, these computer softwares, artificial intelligence is actually not creative at all.
1,000%. I couldn't agree more. So let's just go through this because I think this piece actually is going to be pretty important. So I want to say when you're a student, or pretty much a majority of applicants are using a chronological resume, right? This is your reverse chronological, right? This is starting with your recent experience and moving your way backwards. Um, it works well for students and young professionals. Um, what I well, then you have the functional. So, let me just go through all of them. And then the functional focuses on skills and achievements, right? This is best for folks who are changing their career, or if you have a large gap in employment, right? And you're able to focus on what they're looking for. And then there's the hybrid version. I still prefer the chronological format, and I think most organizations do. But if you need that extra plug, or if you need to, showcase particular skills that that you may have or developed, but there might be a break in your career, some gaps, then that's a way to use a functional. But I want to say most of us are using that chronological format. Uh, Appearance wise, this limit to one page, I'm going to, just don't pay no mind to that if you have over 10 years of experience. So the rule of thumb is that if you have 10 plus years of experience, it is okay to have a second page. When you get into CV writing, that's when a traditional CV is longer because you're including research, publications, things like that. But I think most of us on this call probably fall between that 1 to 2 page resume. Reverse chronological order, so you're starting with the most recent first. Margins, I gotta say I've stretched it to 0.5. I didn't originally create this PowerPoint, and I would argue till I'm blue in the face that 0.5 is okay. Any further than that, I think that's too tight, because then you run into the error of the issue of, okay, is this gonna, if I send this out, is it coming up the same way? Is it the words running off? I've seen it all. So do make sure when you save your document and you're ready to send it off, save it as a PDF and open it before you shoot it off, just to make sure the format. And I see a lot of folks who are using the Google Docs. When you save that, it may look great on your screen. When you save that as a PDF, sometimes it gets a little wonky. So do check that before you send that out to an employer. Avoid color paper, blah, blah, blah. Using text and bold sparingly. I like to use this to showcase my, really call, what is my eye going to do? So aesthetic wise, right? What is my eye hitting, right? My headers. And then you have your subheaders or your titles that could be italicized. Do not use all these crazy templates that are out there. I got to say, templates make it so much harder to edit because you're limited to this text box, right? And it's sometimes hard to manipulate. And also, back to the ATS software, they sometimes can't read or register those crazy looking templates, and keep it to black and white. Nobody wants to see your, forest green text with your, nobody cares about that, because when a recruiter's, if they had to print your resume, it's black and white anyway. So don't go crazy with the colors, don't go crazy with the templates. And the fear of it, just start with a blank Word document and take it from there. So keep it, sometimes simple is more in this sense. Do not use boxes or other graphics, right? No clip art. No photos. I've worked in a previous role. I worked a lot with international students, and that's the norm over there, right? In other countries, is to put your picture on your resume. Here in the U.S., we do not put pictures, and it's amazing how many I see still coming through that do that. So,
Christina,
yeah.
what about GPA? Someone asked in the chat, sometimes law schools require a resume. Is it the same rules, or do you do something different if you're going to grad school?
So we definitely, I mean, I was definitely going to get into that, but
Okay.
GPA, absolutely. If it's a 3.0 or above, you can include it. I mean, I've been out of undergrad for a while now, and I've been out of grad school a while now too, and I still have my GPA on there, just because it was something I was proud of, But if it doesn't carry much weight, if you always have to reevaluate what carries the most weight in your experience and your background. GPA isn't necessarily an indicator of professional success. When I think back to community college, I mean, I had a 2.9. I could have been better. I could have applied myself more, but I think I'm pretty successful in my own career. And I think I've done really well for myself. And if people judged me on my GPA,
Mhm.
so don't, if that's a problem for you, if you didn't have the strongest GPA, that's okay. Don't put it. But think about what in your experience carries the most weight for you, and then focus on that and expand on it. So for grad school, I know I didn't necessarily target that question, but for grad school, you might be including, you want to include work that would support your goal, right? Why are you going to law school? Why are you going to graduate school? What program? What are your career advancements? And then what have you done to back that up? So maybe it's more school engagement, campus engagement, right? Were you a part of the law mock trial club or law and society, right? Did you do these extracurriculars, showing internships, volunteer work? Schools look at that kind of stuff, right? And how engaged were you on campus? Um, so you might be tweaking a little bit more to showcase some of your academic work, and extracurriculars if you for graduate school. But definitely experience, because a lot of schools require experience. So if you have professional experience, we want to include that on there, especially if it's industry related. Okay. So I think we kind of just covered some of this, but creating a simple format so the ATS systems can pick them up, and then stay away from the templates, right? It is your advertisement. So you want to be clear and concise. And I don't want you to focus too much on the, trying to make it look pretty in terms of logos and this and that, right? I think it's safe to say we're not going into graphic design, right? We're not going into necessarily a creative space where that could play to an advantage. Um, for the most part, I think we're entering those professional careers where the simple format would be just as appreciated. So now we're going to transition into the content. So if there are any questions about appearance or formatting, please feel free to ask away. But I'm going to transition into that content piece now. So when you think about what the categories on your resume are, there are a few that are like the core essential ones, and then there are the optional categories that you can include. So you're always going to put your contact information. Now, if you don't feel comfortable putting your address, your physical address, you don't have to do that. If you want to if you want to let folks know that you're local to New York City, you could put greater New York City area, or you could put your zip code. Um, Absolutely. But if you don't feel comfortable putting your personal address, that's completely okay. As long as you have like an email address and a phone number, that would be relevant. I do recommend, if you're not using your John Jay email, there's a lot of times I see a John Jay email on there and the student uses or the alum uses their Gmail more. Don't put an email address you're not checking. Also, make sure it's a professional one. I've seen some pretty crazy ones out there. So it's easy enough to create a Gmail, first letter of your first name and your last name, right? Keep it professional. And thinking even about your phone number you put on there. I had a few folks I've called in the past that have those ringback tones, or had like a joking voicemail that I thought it was a beep, and it was like, ha ha, got you. I'm like, can you imagine if that was the employer connecting with that student? Thankfully it was me to intercept them before the employer. But make sure that you don't have any of those old ringback tones we forgot about from 2007. So, all right. So definitely want to include your education. If you've been in the field now, maybe you're an alum that maybe has 5-10 years of experience, where where that's speaking a little more to your experiences and your skill set than your education. Go ahead and move the education to the bottom of your resume. Um, if you're a recent graduate, I think it's okay to keep it up at the top. But if you have, a significant amount of work experience that speaks a little bit more to your skills and abilities, and industry knowledge, put the experience as your first header, as your first category, and you can put education down on the bottom. Experience, this can be ranged anywhere from your work experience to your volunteer. Well, I know volunteer is an activity, but maybe you've had a significant role within an organization, whether a professional association, or whatnot. Whatever is your most valuable experience, we want to incorporate that onto the resume. And then these skills or languages. Now, be mindful when we're talking about skills. I don't want to know, like, I want to know you're a team player, but I don't want to see it written down under skills. I want you to convey that to me through your bullet points, through a cover letter, in an interview. What I want to see under skills and languages are your hard technical skills, right? What kind of computer platforms do you know? Do you know any special programming languages or any equipment or hardware that might be job relevant, right? If you're going into security management, you want to let the employer know you know how to use CCTV and operate a firearm, and you have a security guard license, right? This is an opportunity to include any certifications you may have, whether it's CPR, dispute resolution, or any other relevant trainings that you've had that could be applicable to what you're applying for. So those are the core components of the resume. Now, there are optional categories now that we can pepper in, and we can get creative and have fun with some of the headers of these. This is just kind of like an example, but maybe if you're a recent alum and you haven't had extensive experience in the field, but you've done a lot of academic work, maybe academic projects, some research, absolutely incorporate that into the resume, because that might be able to speak to your research abilities, analytical skills, critical thinking, and you can showcase that through highlighting some of your academic work. Any honors or awards, honor societies, achievements, any type of leadership, right? Maybe you founded a club or are involved in a professional association in your industry and you're a member of the blah, blah, blah committee. Definitely we can include that on the resume. Volunteer activities, right? Volunteer work is always going to be important to include, just because it's sort of, it rounds you out, right? It rounds you out, and it may showcase your knowledge in a particular area and experiences. So absolutely volunteer activities. Professional organizations, these are important because they can help be a connector, right? If I'm the recruiter and we're both part of the same association, right? That's a connection. That's a talking point that we can bond over or reference to one another. And any research or publications, right? So if you've done significant research with a professor, or maybe you had an internship and you were able to publish some articles, definitely think about how you can incorporate that on the resume, but prioritize it, right? Not everything, like I said before, not one size fits all. I'm going to say it over and over again. And that's why it's important to have a master resume where you can throw on all these sections, right? This thing can be 5 pages, but it's only for your eyes, and it's for you to help you make that smaller job specific resume, but you're able to extract the information you had on there. So that's categories.
Christina, what do you think about putting the LinkedIn link?
Absolutely. Yes, I do
I,
apologize.
I,
I would absolutely include your LinkedIn link. However, what's the word I'm looking for?
make sure
Claim.
LinkedIn looks good.
Yeah, make sure your LinkedIn looks good if you're showcasing it, but also claim your unique URL.
Yes.
Don't have it be linkedin.com/user/9555259, make it linkedin.com/in, whatever it is, Christina Simonson, right? So that way, if you are putting it on your resume, that's something that especially if I can't copy and paste it, or if I had to write it down, I can shorthand it, right? Or hyperlink it. So if you're sending things off as a PDF, all I have to do is just click where it says LinkedIn, right? So hyperlinking is going to be really important. When you're sending out your materials, I know I'm sure this is in the end, always send it as a PDF. Never send things as a Word document. A lot of folks don't want to open Word documents because it could be full of viruses. They may not have the same operating system as you. I've had students send me resume in Pages, and I don't have Pages, right? It wasn't working in Pages, so I couldn't access it. So always send it as a PDF. You could put cover letter on top, resume on the bottom, send it as one application, and then be intentional with your labeling of it. Like Christina Simonson, Spotify resume, right? And have it. So be conscious with how you're saving your resumes. I have a folder full of resumes, and I have the company name in each of them. So I knew, okay, this is the one I'm customizing for that, and I'm not accidentally attaching the wrong one. Okay.
There's a question that came in. Someone who has been at her job for a long time,
Hmm.
but was not really promoted to a higher role and has gained a lot of skills. How do you kind of show that even though you've never gotten a promotion?
So think about how you can measure your results, right? What is it that you've done, right? And how can you quantify that and show, data is hot. Numbers, adding adding a number adds value to your resume, right? So anywhere, right? To think about the skills that employers want to know. If you've been at your job at a long time and you've developed all these skills, what kind of leadership skills have you developed? Right? Have you trained anyone? Did you supervise anyone? Are you a lead on any particular projects, right? Project management, that's hot, right? Can you execute a project from soup to nuts, right? So what kind of things have you been doing in your work activities? As a result of something you've done, is there, what were the results of that, right? Was there an increase by 30% in user traffic to da 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 da, right? So showcase and measure your achievements, right? Did you receive any awards? Did the department receive any awards because of the work that you've done? There's definitely a way to showcase that, but really try to emphasize your leadership and management skills, because and really start to develop, results driven action points. That way you can show, the employer, okay, I've been in this role, but this is what I've accomplished. Highlighting your accomplishments are important. So don't just talk to them. It's not just like blurting out words, but talk to me. What successfully achieved an increase of 30% through strategic planning and showing achievable. I'm like, it's late at night. I can't even talk. I'm like, need another cup of coffee. But achieve, like, what your achievements are and how you've grown in that role, right? Um, what kind of responsibilities have you taken on throughout, and really lead with those when you're creating your bullet points. Sometimes we just put them out in the way they pop into our brain when we think generally about what we do. Put the juicier stuff up top, right? When I think about an employer scanning a resume, do you know how long they scan a resume for? You're looking at an average of 8 to 13 seconds. A recruiter is looking at your resume. So you want to make sure the juicy stuff, like the sexy stuff, is on in your top bullet points. I would never lead with answer phones and communicate with employers, right? That should just be kind of like built in. But I'm going to say, lead a team of 3 for blah 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 blah, right? And you can expand on that. So supervision skills, leadership skills, any successful achievements you've had, those should be the top, right? The top ones. Showcase your critical thinking skills, project management, problem solving. Those will be the things, the juicy things you want to keep at the top bullet points, right? And then transition down. So we don't have to really write our sections. Things to exclude, right? We don't need your birth, your marital status, any of this information. Where you might run into having to put, you won't have to put your date of birth, but writing a federal resume, I'm not sure if anyone here is writing a federal resume, that does require a little bit more information, but at no point would it ever include any of this stuff. So if anyone's asking for that, that's an HR no. Typically, like, how you could include your contact information, pretty straightforward, right? Have your name. I always like to make my name bolder and bigger so it pops. And then you could, keep everything else. I'm just going to breeze through these. We can always talk about samples because I do want to talk about one more thing at the end of this. So I'm not too concerned about this, but oops. But education, make sure that you're including your degrees. If you have an associate's degree and you accomplish, and say you did an associate's in criminal justice and then you got your bachelor's in criminal justice, if you've graduated, and we're not referencing back to, LaGuardia Community College, we don't have to include your associate's degree anymore. At this point, your experience and that bachelor's degree alone should carry you. You don't need to put the associates on there. Um, Same thing with masters. I depending on how far along, I do like to include my bachelor's and master's, but eventually I'm going to get to the point where my master's degree and my experience carries the direction where my career is going. Um, so there's some flexibility, but for now, most of us are going to include our bachelor's and or master's.
And same when you all get your PhDs.
Same, yeah. Okay. So your experience, right? We're transitioning to that experience statement. So you definitely want to highlight your major and most relevant achievements within the role. So things like your technical expertise, like I said before, program development, leadership, experience with diversity, database management is really important. And any budgeting or financial skills, that's important. And then customer service, which I think a lot of people have customer service, but it doesn't always connect in their mind. So there are different ways you could showcase your customer service skills. Let's see. Right. And so how do we go about making our experience statements? Right. So you want to start with a strong action verb. I don't want you to start saying things like duties included or responsible for. Well, just delete that first word and lead with the next word you were going to say, right? Duties included uh, creating sales pitches and securing blah, 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 right? No, create sales pitches, not, I don't need the duties included. So just lead straight in with a powerful action verb. And we have a book in the Career Center. It's available online too, that just has a page dedicated to action verbs. So if you ever get stuck, or maybe you said assisted 3 times, right? There are other words you can use. Go open a thesaurus, right? Thesaurus.com is great. Or find synonyms for different words, and really challenge yourself. Try not to being repetitive. Um, so here are some samples here, analyzed and reviewed. So think about those power words that employer, right? This is an opportunity for you to mimic some of the language that might have been in the posting, right? If they're looking for someone who knows how to lead and execute marketing plans, right? Just use that, right? Lead and executed 15 marketing campaigns that led to 30% sales increase in Pelotons. I don't know. But using those power words really can help you stand out. So here's our little formula for developing an experience statement, right? So what was the problem, right, that existed? So what was the situation? What action did you take? And as a result, right, what were the results of your efforts, right? And this is where you get to quantify, right? Use dollars, use percentages, right? If you supervised anyone, how big was your team, right? I have a lot of students that have had, maybe they were a teacher's aide, right? And they've worked with a classroom of students. Well, how many students were in that classroom and what were the ages, right? Because there's a difference working with 7-year-olds then versus working with 17-year-olds, versus working with 30-year-olds, right? There's that it speaks. I read between the lines when you give me these data points. So I can say, oh, they know how to handle a large volume within that specific population, right? And so that could help you when you're applying to a job. Okay, so here's an example, right? So what was the situation, right? Student information needed to be organized. So what they do, we created a database. So create a student database for efficient information retrieval, right? And it's almost as, sometimes we overthink it, but sometimes it could be as clear as that, right? So your result becomes the experience statement. And so this could be a helpful formula when you reflect back on your work, and maybe just have a journal. I always recommend keeping a journal, just trying to track back your notes, even write notes on your current resume that you already have, right? How can you go through your actual work activities and define, okay, what did I do in this job, right? What are some of the programs or projects that I worked on? And use this formula and create bullet points from there. Cruising along. Right, so we want to make sure that we're always including the company name. I want city and state for everything, for your school, for your work experience, for your not volunteer experience, right? Let me know where it is. And if it's virtual, you can put virtual. Include your title, right? Your position title. um, the dates you're working there, and we speak in month year. So try to and be consistent, right? If you are writing out your education as, oh, I graduated May 2011, but you're putting for your dates under employment, you're using numeric values, right? '09/2010, right? Be consistent with your format, right? If you're going to write out your month and year, write them out for everything. If you're going to shorthand it with numeric values, which is completely fine, do that throughout. So just be consistent. And then tense is really important. Present tense versus past tense. If you are no longer at a job, we need to be speaking in the past tense, right? So examined, negotiated, analyzed. So make sure you're going through your resume and saying, okay, does my resume reflect the past versus present tense? I like the bullet point format. I'm never going to be one to say yes, stuff a paragraph under you. For me, it's just not readable. If when I'm reading a resume, I'm scanning it and I want to know, I want my eye to be drawn to the bullet points that are going to speak most about your work and your abilities. I would recommend the bullet point method, um, and that should be it's pretty straightforward. But let me see here, right? Being specific, right? You want to quantify and qualify. So, like I said, anywhere you have the ability to plug in a number, that will add value.
Dana, is there anything about these tips that you're giving that are different for a federal resume? Because you mentioned it, so
Yes,
it's a question.
yes. I think I'm trying to think that yeah, I'll just mention it now. If you are writing a federal resume, and actually a website I recommend is, I think if you just even type it into Google, like federal resume, Department of Labor, I think it's the first, it should be the first like a link that comes, it's DOL, it's the Department of Labor. They have a really great like writing guide to help you with the federal resume. And I think when you're writing on, if you're applying on USA Jobs, they kind of have you plug it in when you have your account. So that's helpful. But if you had like to print out or email off a federal resume, usually under your contact information, you are declaring you're a US citizen. You're usually putting the last four digits of your social security number. And then you're usually including that job ID number that you're applying for. Then when you transition to your education and your experiences, they want addresses, right? So you need the addresses, you need salary information, you need hours worked, right? Was this a full-time, was this a part-time job? And you need to include as a bullet point if, may contact supervisor or supervisor information. So there is a federal resume is understood to be longer. So don't freak out if your federal resume is over one page, because you are adding a lot more information than you would a traditional resume. So that will generally just be longer. But that website does have a lot of great information. And I think on USA Jobs, they've made it easier over the years where a lot of this information gets plugged in from what you put into while you're building your profile. Does that help?
Just something I put it in the chat, but if in case folks are not reading the chat, if you're applying for federal jobs, they're often, especially criminal justice related law enforcement work, they will ask you for a release to get your judicial record from campus. So every April-ish around there, they will come to campus with that release form. They will head right to the Dean of Students office, and the Dean of Students will open up your entire record to these feds or to this law enforcement agency. So make sure you're on point, make sure if there's anything that you're worried about, you set up a meeting with the dean and you make sure that things, are not in there that shouldn't be in there anymore. If you got in trouble once and you were promised it would be expunged after a year, have those conversations. It's like what I tell transfer students. You can't assume that your transcript got to the new school. You have to be on top of that. So just make sure, and you know who you are. If you got an, if you have something with the dean, you know who you are. So just, have that conversation with him. He's a great guy. And I mean, if you're not from John Jay and you're from another college, have that conversation with your dean of students.
Great, that's a great point. And I think that just goes that's transferable to a lot of different things too. Do a spot check of yourself, right? Whether it's
Google
academic,
yourself.
Google yourself. Yeah. If the first thing coming up is your Twitter that has pictures of you drinking, doing something reckless, you might want to clean up your digital brand, because employers are looking. So, do a spot check of yourself. Absolutely. Great point. Okay, so we talked about. So now let's get into those transferable skills. So a lot of times I do see students listing all of these transferable skills under the skills section. This isn't the place for it, right? These, these are things that I want to see embedded in your bullet points. Right? I want to be able to read through this and say, okay, that person possesses leadership skills because she took on all these different projects and executed it and results driven and da da da. So thinking about what your transferable skills are, these are skills that you've acquired throughout your life, right? Including your jobs, your coursework, your hobbies, right? And if you're on a team, right? Especially teams, like our athletes always seem to forget to include a lot of their athletic achievements on there because that speaks about, employers like that stuff. You were part of a team. Communication is critical on a team. So think about the things that you've acquired, right? I've worked with children, I've worked with young children. My patience, I've been able to develop that as a skill and leverage that as a skill. So think back, reflect back and say, okay, what kind of skills have I acquired throughout my time, right? And those are the ones that you want to expand on, like I said, in an interview, in a bullet points. I want to get that sense of the work that you've done. So skills, I already kind of talked about this, so I'm just gonna to glaze over that. But like I said, don't sound like everyone else. Don't use those vague statements. That's not. It's kind of just like a waste of space, right? I want you to. I want to get the sense that you're an effective communicator by effectively communicating to me what you've done in your job and in your experience. When to see a counselor, we do offer alumni services depending how far out you've graduated, but you can always come back and book a one-on-one appointment. Our office manager, Betsy Gonzalez, handles all of the support with the alumni, so she could connect you to us. So if you have gaps in your employment history and you need to learn how to expand on that or touch upon it, if you're thinking about changing careers and maybe you have a criminal justice background, but you want to get into HR, right? And you want to be able to speak to that. And maybe if your work experience listed is unrelated to the position you're applying for, I guarantee this is where those transferable skills come into play, right? And being able to showcase what you can do, what you're capable of. So I don't need that summary, blah, blah, blah. So this is not what I want to show anymore, but how are we on time? Because I do want to get to questions, but I think it would be really helpful to show folks Vault.
Well,
But
it's 6:45.
okay, so maybe
Can I get a show like if you're not from John Jay, just put a 1 in the chat because Vault is only for John Jay students. So I just want to make sure that everybody in here is John Jay related because then we'll show it. Okay, so it looks like there's nobody here who's not from John Jay. So
okay.
oh, there's one.
Okay. Well, no, this is still applicable, but
Okay.
John Jay might just get an extra perk of this website.
Okay.
And so I'm actually gonna one moment while I get to JJ.
So people who are not from John Jay can also use this
They
website.
absolutely can.
Okay.
They just won't get the premium access John Jay alum and students have.
Okay.
Where am I? I lost my Zoom. Hold on. Here we go. Share. Okay. I'm just going to go to the John Jay website. So there are two ways to access the platform I'm about to show you. First is through the John Jay website. The second is through our job portal, John Jay Careers Online. As an alum, you still have access to this portal as long as you're using your John Jay email. And I'll put a general email in the chat. It's careers@jjay.cuny.edu. If you're having issues logging in, you can just email that email address. But as an alum, as long as your John Jay email is still active, you should still have an account. If you're an alum that graduated maybe more than 10 years ago, we may need to create that account for you. But that's completely okay. We'll absolutely do that because we want you to have access to the system. Because as a John Jay alum, this is built-in access for life. So you will still be able to utilize our job board and attend any of our workshops or events. I host 2 career fairs a year, and we just had our graduate school fair last Thursday, if anyone attended. But I'm going to go ahead and show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to the Career Center site, which is over student life, and then the Center for Career and Professional Development. Right, and this is a little shorthand for it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down, right? This is where you can log into John Jay Careers Online. But I'm going to scroll down to where it says Vault. And if you do not have an account on this platform yet, you do want to click it through here because it's going to give you this special access, right? It's going to say access provided by John Jay College. So if you're just typing in vault.com, it's not going to tell the system who you are yet until you have your account. Racketing. And what you'll do is you'll hit log in and sign up. Now, when you sign up, you need to use your John Jay email. So in order to unlock the premium perks of this website, you need your John Jay email. If you don't have access to your John Jay email, Roseanne, is that, to my knowledge, they're not supposed to delete those, correct?
So I just put the instructions in the chat. If you leave your John Jay email inactive 6 months after graduating, they will shut it off. It's like a light switch. They're going to turn it off because all it's going to do is accumulate spam and junk, and that's too
server
much for the
space.
server. So as long as you maintain the email address and you keep changing the password, what is it? Every 3 months we're required to change it?
Yeah, 90
Something
days.
like that. You can have your email forever, but if you don't use it, you'll lose it, but you can reactivate it, but you'll be starting from scratch. So anything you had in it will be gone.
Excellent points. So yes, so create the Vault account with your John Jay email, because by using this domain, you're telling the system I'm a John Jay student, so it's automatically going to unlock the premium version. Since I have an account, I'm just going to log in. And I know you guys can play around with this all you want. I just want to touch upon it. I want to let you know about this platform because it's something the college pays for. You can also use it if you're not a John Jay student. Spread the good word about Vault. It really is a great platform. Once you create your account, you'll be given access to their newsletter and so many different great things. But I like to use Vault for career exploration and information. So if I wanted to know the top 50 law firms in New York City that practice labor law, I could find that, right? If I wanted to find the top tech companies that are best for women, right, I can find that. I like to compare it to like Glassdoor or like a Rate My Professor, but instead of professor, you're getting rankings on companies and jobs. So this is really fun to play with, right? You could find, you see all of this, da-da-da. They do have an internship and a jobs tab. I do not manage this portal, so I can't tell you what's on there, but I do trust the Vault team and I know they are vetting these. So they are legitimate opportunities. So I would encourage you to explore those. What Vault is famous for, and this is the benefit of having that premium account, is you will get these guides for free. Otherwise, you have to pay for them. But with these guides, if I wanted to know, and I'll use myself as an example, there was at one point I was doing a lot of interviewing in a recruiting space, right? And I had an interview with JP Morgan for a commercial banking recruiter. I had no idea what commercial, like I just thought of bank tellers, right? But I didn't understand what is commercial banking. And there was so much to it. And I actually went on Vault and I found a guide that gave me a lot of information about commercial banking. And so I felt better prepared going into the interview, knowing a little bit more about who I'd be selling, right? What kind of jobs would I be selling here to prospective applicants? So if you were thinking about, well, what can I do with a criminal justice degree, right? You can either type it in here, or you could break it down and try to find it through one of these sections, right, that they created, right? This isn't John Jay. Oh, goodness. This isn't John Jay specific, right? Vault isn't John Jay specific. It's not customized specifically for our students. You're going to see a lot of other industries represented that don't necessarily think of are the first industry that you think of when you think of John Jay. So you may have to poke around for it. But for example, I'll just type in criminal justice, right? And I could get a lot of different information, but you know what? Maybe I just want to read a guidebook. Right? Vault Guide to Criminal Justice Jobs, right? So I'm going to look through it, and it looks like I'm going to get an overview of several professions, but each overview is going to have all of this information, right? More about the job, the history of it, the earning potential, tips for how I could be successful entering this field, other career and certifications other education and certifications I may need. And then it'll tell you at the bottom what jobs we'll be talking about. So for in this book, right, criminal justice jobs, they're going to talk about 27 of these jobs. So these are all things. So if you're ever interested in being an FBI agent or a lawyer, right, you can go in there and read the page or chapter on that particular area that you're interested in. I think otherwise, if you're not part of John Jay, some of these guides go for anywhere between like $20 and $30 per guide. So as a John Jay student or alum, you will have access to download these for free to your desktop, to your Kindle, to your phone, whatever platform you use to read on. You can download this book. They have several guides. Like I mentioned, they have several guides for anything. If you want to learn how to ace a behavioral interview, right, they have a guidebook on that where you can read through it. And then finally, the last nugget of information I'll leave you with about Vault is this career advice tab. And this is really great. They talk about COVID resources. I really encourage you to play around with these tips. And different things. So for example, resume, right? For some of the folks in here, for your first one, you don't know how to format one, right? Here's a whole database of samples, right? And you can break them down by experience level, right? Maybe I want to find, right? Maybe I want to find only, advertising resumes. You could search it. Or maybe I want to find only entry level resumes, right? What should an entry level look like versus a experienced hire, right? So you can play around with that. But furthermore, if I go back, right, I'm sorry, I'm just bouncing around here. Under each kind of section, they have videos. They created these really amazing career spots that are no more than 3 minutes because I don't want to sit there and be watching a 15-minute video on resume writing, right? No, they're really short, digestible videos that you can use as a support tool, right? Because you're not always going to have a counselor, right? You're not always going to have a workshop to attend, and you may need to do some of this stuff on your own. So really take advantage of these videos, right? Especially the cover letter ones. They have one that's like this cover letter trick will get a hiring manager to read all the way through your cover letter, right? Watch that video. It's really informative. And then you can go through it. So that is my piece on Vault and everything. So I want to kind of flip this over to you guys now for a little question and answer. But thank you guys.
I know it went kind of fast. This is being recorded. So what'll happen is that once the recording is ready, when we send you our little thank you email for being with us, the recording link will be in that email. Christina, someone is asking, they're a double major. Do we have to look for our major or minor major to seek employment? I responded to that a little bit, but I want to see if you have a different point of view. But the reality is that places want to see that you have a degree.
Yes.
They don't care.
And that's the sad part. So we teach our students, you are not married to your major. And truthfully, it does not matter. Nobody gives a crap what you say. Nobody cares I have a degree in advertising. It's how have I used that degree in advertising
Right.
and leveraged it and leveraged my experience in other roles. So I definitely think that, just because you studied criminal justice, you don't have to go into criminal justice. But what have you done throughout your journey, whether it's you're still in school or, you're recently graduated, what are you doing to support your career goals? That's what's going to speak volumes. So no, don't feel that you're stuck in this career path because you studied a particular thing, right? Talk about those transferable skills, right? that degree prepared for you to think critically, to think about a lot of diverse, complex issues, right? What have you done to support your career goals through the training and preparation your academic experience has given you?
The other piece that I will say is some of these more technical jobs will train you.
Yeah,
So for
absolutely.
example, cybersecurity. We
Mhm.
had a really successful webinar a couple of months ago on cybersecurity and how to get a foot in the door. Opening jobs, entry level jobs, 75K a year. You will be trained, but they want to see that you can work in a team, that you have critical thinking skills, that you can communicate, that you know how to put a sentence together that's correct, grammatically correct, that you know how to answer the phone in a very polite way. Like these are things that you never think of are because you're not learning them in a classroom all the
Mhm.
time. So these are the things that are important. They want that you have a bachelor's degree. They will train you if you're trainable. If you can't put an English sentence together, that's going to look poorly on you. If your cover letter is full of typos and grammatical errors, you're never going to get the interview. So I can't stress enough that if writing is not your strong point, that you start to think about maybe some kind of coursework or webinar or something or some kind of book that will help you get better at writing, that get better at communicating, whatever you're not so great at, work on it. You know what they are. If you're a senior or if you've already been in the career in the workforce, you know what those things are and work on them.
And to that point, for one thing, Grammarly is a really great Chrome extension. If you feel that sometimes you get through it and you're not sure if you put together a structured sentence, but and this could be applicable to a lot of different things. There are so many online courses now for your own, like there's Coursera, there's MOOCs, there's Udemy, right? You can take, I personally myself took a grammar boot camp because I just wanted to make sure that everything I'm doing is still right. And it did give me a peace of mind. But then there were other things I'm like, wow, what was the one? It was like I forgot what it was, but I was like, I don't remember learning this. Is that what the name of that was called? And it's
Fun
amazing.
with phonics.
No, what was it? Oh my God, it's gonna drive me insane. I'm gonna log into my course and I'll email you. But I'm like, did I miss that chapter in English class when I was like, um,
There is a question.
mhm.
Um, I'm applying for a job that is completely different from what I was working in. So how would that work out when applying for the job and still make myself look like a good candidate for the job?
This is where it's really important to use those transferable skills
Mhm.
because you're not going to throw out that experience, especially if that was like the bulk of your experience, right? So thinking about looking at that job description and say, okay, what what is it that they're looking for, and think about those transferable skills. Okay, it looks like they're looking for a problem solver, looks like they're looking for someone who's a strong communicator or and knows how to use excel and da da da. So thinking about what it is that they're looking for and how can you extract that from your current experiences, right? Letting them know, okay, you need someone who's strong in excel. Well, in my current role, I am consistently managing and updating a database I created through excel and creating annual reports that are distributed to senior shareholders and da, 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 right. So you're able to just kind of tie in um, how you've developed right those skills that they're looking for, back them up with your experiences. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the same exact experience. You're a career changer, right? You're looking to get into a different field. So, how can you showcase those transferable skills and how they'd be applicable into the role that you're applying for?
Um, so someone asked if the Writing Center has a course on grammar or some kind of tips on grammar. I doubt it, but I would recommend you ask.
I was like, it never hurts to ask.
You
I
need to
don't know.
ask. The other thing I would suggest is, again, you have the internet at your fingertips. There's
You,
gotta be a course on YouTube, the Mayo, Khan Academy. There's gotta be a course free somewhere that will help you with your grammar. I have a book, Strunk and White. I recommend it's probably 100 years old, but the language is even older. You can probably buy it used for 50 cents. I say get that book and understand what the common mistakes in grammar are. Know the difference between then and than. Know the difference between there, and there. All of those things matter. They matter. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to give you the bad news. But if your first impression is a piece of paper, a resume, then all of that is going to matter,
Mhm.
and take it for what it's worth. As someone, Christina and I have been on many, many, many hiring committees. Many. I've been at John Jay 8 years. I've been on a lot of searches. So believe me when I tell you that those things matter. So take the time, take a Sunday, you know, skip a hangout day and get online and improve on whatever it is you think you need to tweak.
And to that point, if you're recognizing that in a job, in your job search, you're coming from, maybe you found a position that you're really interested in. So you started looking up, other versions of that job at different organizations, and you are seeing common themes in the duties or in the responsibilities or in the qualifications. Maybe they're looking for somebody who's certified in blah, blah, blah. Or you see this position deals heavily with Excel and you don't know Excel, get out there and take a course on Excel and use YouTube. If you don't always have the access to going out and you don't want to keep paying for courses, YouTube is the second most highest rated search engine apart from Google. There is literally everything on there. I learned how to build a website on YouTube, right? I studied graphic design and advertising. I had to use Dreamweaver, which is a really old school, intricate software, and the textbook was just like useless to me. I learned that through YouTube. So you can find anything on there, and you want to make sure you're developing your skill set, especially if you're seeing common themes in these roles, right? You want to be a competitive candidate. So if you need to learn Excel, you better learn Excel, right? And go out there, and it's only for your own benefit, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I definitely keep an eye out on the alumni site for LinkedIn workshops. I know Christina offers them periodically.
December 2nd.
There you go. December 2nd, she's having a how to improve your LinkedIn. I'm actually having one that doesn't have anything to do with John Jay, but it's open and free to everyone. That is the next level LinkedIn, and it teaches you how to network and job search on it. So I would say go to Christina's on December 7th and then come to mine on December 17th and just follow us. We'll be posting it. I put both of our LinkedIn's in the chat earlier. I'll just spell our names again because we both spell our names differently from the typical that you're used to. And find us, and we post all our stuff on our LinkedIn's. John
Mhm.
Jay College Alumni Relations Center, the Center for Career and Professional Development. All of these things are there. They're at your disposal. They're free. I'm not going to speak for Christina, but I'm sure she's going to agree we're available. You can make appointments with us. You can find me at alumni at jjay.cuny.edu. Christina's at careers. If she's not available, there's other counselors. So we're here to help you with all of this as an alumni or as a current student. So the resources are there for you. We're here for you. You just gotta, the fortune is in the follow-up, people. You gotta follow up, you gotta follow through. Um, and you'll be great because you already have the education, you're already smart. We just got to make sure that that little resume gets you through the door. It's just one little obstacle that we just have to kind of mess around with.
Exactly. And what I just threw into the chat that is John Jay Careers Online. That is the university's internal job board platform. So these are employers that are specifically seeking John Jay students and alumni. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing that, right? And so if you haven't logged in before, just use your John Jay email and select forgot password. But as I mentioned earlier, you will need access to your John Jay email. So every student has an account, whether you're a recent graduate. I want to say for the last at least 5 years, you should already have an account in the system. You may have never looked at it, but you have one. So select the forgot password option and put in your John Jay email, and it'll send you account reset. If for some reason you don't have an account in the system, email the careers at jjay.cuny.edu. Say you're an alumni, provide your EMPL ID, and we'll get an account set up for you. And we'll just do it manually, and we could link that to your like Gmail or whatever personal email address you want to use. So, and just saying, we're in the Career Center, we offer these workshops there are workshops every week. So feel free to jump in again. You can attend all the workshops you want to. All of them are posted through John Jay Careers Online. So if you may say, oh, well, I've never seen them before, I haven't done this, it's because you're probably not utilizing the John Jay Careers Online platform. That's where we post all of our employer workshops. That's where we're posting all of our career fair and grad fair information. And this is where all the jobs are coming in, the jobs and internships that are being approved every day. I consistently have a bin of pending, right? And I could tell you people are hiring,
Yes,
right?
they
There's
are.
a constant flow of jobs, and there are jobs ranging from entry level to more senior level opportunities on there. So don't worry. You can always come back and utilize our resources.
I also put in the chat jjay.cc/alumni events. We have about 4 events left in the semester. One of them is actually a Q&A with the owner of a cybersecurity firm, and he is hiring. So if you're interested in cyber, computer information, computer science, this is going to be the event. He's taking a strictly rapid fire Q&A. He's not doing a presentation. He's like, ask him whatever you want. And he's going to be looking for people in that conversation who he might want to tap. So, you definitely will be able to show your communication skills. And on Friday is part 2 of today's event, where I'm going to be talking about how to market and brand yourself. So I know it's a Friday, I'm sorry, but where are you going? We're in COVID. So you can spend an hour with me to market yourself, and then you can go to a bar with 5 people in it. So, if you want to come to that, again, that's already posted on my LinkedIn, on the college's alumni page. We're here for you, and the alumni events calendar is there. It's going to be updated in the next 3 to 4 weeks with all of the spring events, and they're going to be even better. So make sure you find us. I see some of my regulars on here. Hi, Megan. Hi, Laura, Dincy. Thank you guys so much for being here. Are there any more questions? I'm sorry,
Can I give one more shameless plug for our career chats? So I bring in employers to do quick, like 15-minute conversations about their journey. So it's not necessarily recruitment focused, but if you have an interest in any of those areas, check it out. Check out the video. Most of the time I left the recording going through the student questions. So some of their questions might resonate with you. So feel free to play around with that when you're bored. You can't find anything on Netflix. Watch a career chat about a guy who worked in the CIA and then went into private security, or financial forensics at EY. There are a lot of different fun things. Take advantage of all of our resources. We are here. Your journey didn't stop. You didn't leave us when you left us. Right? We're still here. We're still here with you. You're a forever bloodhound. So we're here to support you, and we got your back. So thank you for being here. Roseanne, thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, you got it. We'll see you guys. We know you can spend an hour anywhere, anytime. We're glad you're spending it with us. And we'll see you at the next event.
Yeah.
Have a great night.